Things that I identify as right now are a mom and a wife, a writer, a caregiver, and an advocate. I think those were the things that I would identify as.
Enter Calgary Flames Assistant General Manager Chris Snow, who almost a year after his diagnosis defies the form chart and continues to lead a full and active life. We eagerly anticipate an update from Chris and his wife Kelsie on this edition of After Hours.
That was right before COVID hit, so in that sense, my life has changed just like everybody else's, in that we've done a lot of online school, we've missed out on a lot of fun trips that we would have liked to have taken. But personally, that was in January, and in April we noticed a change in Chris's smile. So, we hoped that it would kind of just stay as this little droop in his smile, but it progressed pretty quickly from that little bit of a change in his smile to more issues with just more facial atrophy, basically, loss of muscles in his face, so he wasn't able to kind of make facial expressions the way that he always had, and as the summer progressed, basically lost his ability to smile entirely. And then starting he probably first told me about it in maybe August, that he started to have some issues with his swallowing. So there's two different kinds of progression in ALS. Either in your limbs or something called bulbar progression, and bulbar progression is when it's in your face and in your swallowing. So Chris is first presented in his limbs, and now he was having this bulbar progression. And so for him, by the time late October rolled around, swallowing was getting more and more challenging. There were foods that we were taking off the list, things that were no longer safe for him to try, or he didn't feel safe trying to eat. And then the entire month of November was a real big struggle to really swallow anything daily. Every day there was something that worked the day before that didn't work that day. So at the end of November, he had a feeding tube placed, and that was a very big blessing for our family. It was, scary for everybody to go through something like that, and that sort of very really makes it real, I guess, that change that you're having, but the anxiety that everybody kind of had up until that point with how difficult it was becoming for him to eat, worried about choking, worried about aspiration pneumonia, things like that. It's really been a blessing for us to have him have that, and it was an adjustment, but he's almost 3 months past that now, and I think we all feel a lot more settled. He's gained a good amount of the weight back that he lost. He joked that he has gained back what he needed to, and he didn't gain back what he didn't need to. So I think that's kind of where we're at right now, and knock on wood and all of those things, we hope that we can kind of settle into this plateau for, hopefully forever, but we understand that maybe not.
"50 yards, Snowy. That's for you, buddy. You're an amazing guy. Keep up the great work."
It was such a good idea, and I felt like it was such a fun thing for people to do in a time when everybody had a lot of extra time on their hands and people were looking for something to kind of lift their spirits. And for us, individually, I've said throughout this that going public with Chris's diagnosis has really helped us see the best of people. And I think that was just kind of an exclamation point to that. We, the way that people supported us, people we knew, people we didn't know, the way that it rippled, from people, our friends, to people like Eddie Vedder, and it was crazy. And anytime you can take something like ALS and make it something that doesn't feel awful and sad, especially for our kids, that's a really exciting thing. And for many weeks there, it was every day we'd wake up and it was, is there any new trick shots today? And we'd watch them all, and then they both did one. And so it became a really fun thing for our family, and we were really appreciative to have it during that time especially. I write a lot about kind of what we're going through and our sadness and our grief and our loss, and I've said that one of the reasons why I do that is because for me personally, there's a fear in these types of things that you might feel alone, and a lot of people I know in the world do feel very alone in their grief and in their sadness. It's not something that everybody's great at talking about. But what I found is when I talk about it, the amount of support I get helps me feel like, okay, I can handle this, I can get through this on the days that it doesn't feel like that. Those things help me. So, I think that it really comes down to that, is you feel like you're a part of a community, and you really feel that you have all these people, whether you know them or not, that are pulling for you and thinking about you and, either donating money or donating their time in the way of filming these trick shots and things. And, in a larger sense, hopefully gaining a bit more understanding of what ALS is, that it's not actually that rare and that it's not some old person's disease, that it's affecting, young families all over the world. Yeah, I think it's amazing. I mean, I covered the Minnesota Twins for 5 years for a newspaper, and there was actually maybe 3 or 4 of us who traveled with the team at that point for coverage, like consistent outlets. And 2 of us were women, which was very, very rare, and that remains kind of a rare thing. So, I think that the more that women are talking about what it's like to be a woman in a man's world, the more likely it is that those worlds will be less dominated by men, and I think that that's wonderful. As a woman who was a journalist and all of these things, it's important, but as a mom, that's the biggest thing for me, is for my daughter to see that all of these things are attainable for her, and that they're not only attainable, but other people are doing it as well, because, it can be a little intimidating to see to try to walk into a profession or what have you when there's not a lot of women represented in that space, whether it's in sports or whatever. But I think it's amazing, and I think that the more that we can continue these things, the better. This community and the hockey community as a whole, all the way, I always say this, all the way down from community hockey up to the NHL, has made us feel so loved and so taken care of and so supported. It's really hit home for us that this is our home. We're not from Calgary, we're both American, Chris and I, and so for us to really feel at home here has been a huge thing in this, and there's so much strength in that. There's a lot of strength in the support that we've been given, and we feel incredibly grateful for it every day, every message and every donation and every trick shot and all of that. We feel just very lucky.